Alright, so today we're going to cover a topic that I've been requested. Had, I don't know, 10 or 12 people have requested to see what I do for mixing salt, what I do for water changes. So basically I do a water change once a week. It's usually about five gallons of water. I'm going to go over just a quick run over, show you, where I keep my water. How I mix it, the process I use, what I use to check the water with, a couple things on the manufacturer recommendations. So it's just going to be basically the whole video about doing, about mixing salt water. So let's get into it. Some of you may remember this from the RO Buddy video that I have if you watched it. Basically, this is the area that I have the RO water, deionized water being made, and then all I have is just this cheap 55-gallon garbage can. I have a floor drain right here where I have the wastewater run into, and when I'm making RO water, obviously I have the good RO deionized water going into here. As you can see, I have a nice full tank. So basically I try to keep this, half full to this full, depending on, just to have it here. It helps keeps it to the temperature of the house, which makes it less for me to heat. I don't actually heat it sitting here. I usually heat it individual because I'll plan a water change. When I do a water change and I mix salt, I usually do it the day before. Depends on the salt instructions, which we'll get into later. But I usually do it the day before because I want to make sure all the solids are dissolved and the water is, perfect before I put it into my tank. Just going to basically, with my tank, I have 5-gallon water changes generally weekly. I do it mostly on Sundays. It's just the day I picked. There's no specific date that you have to pick, but try to keep it consistent. I believe, my personal opinion on it, and just for yourself, so it's coming, and also, keep things in your system the same, so they're not too close together, not too far apart, the water changes. Otherwise, all I'm going to do on here is I'm going to take this hose that you see in here. I'm going to siphon water out of this into this bucket. Alright, so you can see I just have a cheap hose, no fancy equipment. I know you can buy pumps and all sorts of stuff. I really have no need for it. If the tank would get low enough where this siphon wouldn't work, I can actually just pour the water right into the bucket. But as you can see, just simply siphoning from one to the other. Nothing pretty easily done here. Basically, once that fills up, I usually get it close to the top of the bucket. But once that does, then I'll take it upstairs and I put a heater in there and I start mixing the salt. I do want to add that I have 2 buckets that I have specifically just for mixing salt and water changes. I don't use them for anything else. One of them I usually take the wastewater out of the tank with. The other one I'll mix the salt in. I like to keep 2 clean buckets that I know are not contaminated with any other thing, just to make sure that I'm not contaminating anything. Like if I have a bucket that I use for something else, maybe didn't get the soap or something washed out of it correctly. This way I know for sure. Alright, a couple things I need here for this. As you can see, I need the dog in the background to keep an eye on me. But then also, I'm going to have this pump. Now that's just basically a cheap Tetra Walmart special, or a Menard special actually, like a $15 pump. No reason to worry about longevity or high quality. It's just going to be mixing some salt at times. This is just a standard, cheap, preset, no adjustment 5-gallon, 10-gallon aquarium heater that I got also at either Walmart or Menards. It might have been Walmart. Both are cheap items. I don't need anything, you know, fancy or anything for this, because like I said, this is just strictly to get the salt and get everything mixed up and get the salinity checked out. Alright, so as I stated, I always try to follow the instructions given on whatever salt I'm using. If you notice, if you ever read the instructions, I know most people don't, they just start mixing, which is fine. A lot of them will actually say this needs to be mixed and can be used right away, or this needs to be mixed and needs to set for 24 hours, or this is good after 12 hours. The reason they say that is because even though it appears to be completely mixed salt, a lot of times it isn't. A lot of times there's still particulate in the water, and that can actually mess up your overall salinity reading when you're checking the salt water for, you know, the final numbers. Which once you add it to your tank, tomorrow you go back and check, it might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower than what it was originally. This way you can be assured it's right on. This is the point here where I'm going to take the little heater. I just stick it right to the side in here, down at the bottom. Then I'll plug that in. Then I have this pump. I stick it to the opposite side, right against the side of the bucket at the bottom. And I plug it in. Now that's going to be blowing water across that heater. So as the heater heats up, it's going to help heat up that bucket. Now at this phase, I always do my water pretty much a day in advance. I figure there's no rush. I usually plan for a water change, so this would be like my Saturday morning setup, because I'm going to do the water change on Sunday. So I'll set it in there. I'll let it set for an hour or so. I actually have one of these cheap, again, nothing expensive, little floater bobber heaters. Throw that in there, check it once in a while. Once it gets to that temperature, then we'll start adding salt. So once we get to that point, I'll bring it back on and we'll go from there. Alright, so while we're waiting for that water to heat up before we start adding the salt, I just want to show you what I was referencing. So as you can see, the Fritz here, this is the one that I've been using. This is the one I've used since I started the aquarium. I'm actually going to be trying this one, Bio C Marine Mix. One of the reasons I thought about switching salt is I've noticed that my iodine is always running low. I don't know if that's because something in my tank is using it up, or if what the case is, but I don't feel as though I'm getting what I need for trace elements out of this when I do the tests. So I'm going to try this, see if it makes any difference at all. Second reason is the actual owner of this company, I was on a chat with him one night. We talked, I called him, we talked for a little while. We discussed different salts and stuff, and I mean, obviously it was his company, so he's a little biased, but he kind of talked me into giving it a shot, and I'm hoping it's everything that he had said it was that it will be. So that's another reason why I'm switching to that one. I'm not a sponsor of Bio C Marine Mix. I'm not getting paid for this. I just thought I'd explain to you the two reasons why I'm making the change, because I know a lot of people will ask. But that's the two main reasons. Now, what I was going to say before is if you look at the back of this bag, let me get up close. All right, so it'll say here in the instructions, for the best results, mix with distilled or reverse osmosis water, which we're doing. Ensure it has been properly dechlorinated. There's no chlorine in my water right now, so we're good there. It says do not mix dry salt directly into a system with livestock present. Basically what they're saying, do not just dump the salt right in your aquarium. Make sure it's mixed. Then the instructions say 1/2 cup salt with each US gallon of fresh water. Vigorously aerate with air pump, which well, I don't have an air pump, but I'm using the power head for that, to thoroughly mix the salt. Measure with a hydrometer or refractometer. I will be using a refractometer. I may actually bring out a hydrometer just to show you for the video where it's at. But ideally the salinity here is saying 27 to 35 parts per thousand. Although solution may be added immediately, so they're saying it's a possibility, it is a recommendation to wait at least 12 hours before adding established system to ensure clarity, complete stability of alkalinity and pH. Water temperature and mixing rate will fluctuate will influence the rate at which products completely dissolve into the solution. So by me heating the water, it's going to help it dissolve quicker. By me letting it set for 24 hours, it's going to make sure that it's fully dissolved, fully mixed, fully accurate, and that the alkalinity and pH are all stabilized before putting this into my aquarium. Now this one will have the same setup. It'll be different, but this one will also have instructions. I'm not going to read through them there, but just to give you an idea, each company has a set of instructions, and if you follow those instructions, you really can't go wrong. I'm assuming that these companies have, test their salt, test their product, know what works best. I mean, you got to hope that they do anyways. So that's one of the reasons why I heat it. Also one of the reasons why I let it sit 24 hours mixing. I do want to throw this in here just because I actually seen it on a recent video. I don't know if you guys follow Saltfish TV. If not, you should definitely check him out. He's another YouTuber. I met him early on in my YouTube career here. I've been following him. I enjoy his videos, his content. I'd hope that you guys go check him out. Give him a shout out here. Let him know I sent you. So one of the things he had in one of his videos that I seen is, when salt comes, and it's on a pallet and it's bouncing around in the truck, that some of the components in here have the potential to settle out. Meaning you could have one component more concentrated here versus here, that type of thing. And in his video, I'd never done this previous, but I've been doing it since I've watched his video. I kind of agree with it. I don't have any scientific proof or any knowledge other than his video, but it seemed to make sense to me that once you get a bag of salt, before you even open it, just take it, mix it around, spend a little time with it, make sure that anything that potentially would be settled out in there is mixed back. I mean, I know there's no way to accurately doing this, get it exact, but potentially if something has settled into a concentration in there, this should help even it out. Like I said, that's coming from Saltfish TV. Like I said, check him out. I think you'll like his content. Alright, so I did check this here, the temperature on it. It is about where it needs to be. Pretty close. It'll finish up here while it's mixing. I am going to finish off. I have probably enough for this bucket in here, I'm guessing. Finish this off. No reason to waste it, because it has been working. Just like I said, I want to try something different. But we got approximately 5 gallons of water here. So we're going to start out with the recommendations. We're going to start out with 1 cup per gallon. When I add that, I actually go really slow. I give it a chance to move around. I don't want it to clump up. Just take that in there. Give it a second to clear up a little bit. You can see that thing moving around in there. You can see the pump is really pumping the water. Then I usually put in like this, I'll put in maybe 2 of these. I might let it set a little bit, make sure I take a look at the bottom here once it clears up, make sure that the salt isn't setting on the bottom. I like to have it mix as it goes, you know, that way it's all mixing correctly. I also have one of these basically just designated to this. Once I open a bag, I stick it in the bag, and then that's the one I use. I don't I try to keep everything that I have for my aquarium. Now this is just my personal take. I know people will do differently, but I try to keep whatever I use in the hobby completely separate from anything else, 'cause it just helps me assure if I do have problems or something, I can look back and say, how is it, you know, are things being contaminated, what's happening here? I know that this has never touched anything but salt, that type of thing, because problems will arise and then you have to figure out where they come from, and you don't want to have a whole bunch of miscellaneous kitchen accessories laying around wondering if that was contaminated or if that's what caused the problem. Looking in here though, the salt has completely, there's nothing settling on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a third one here. Like I said, I just like to really sprinkle it in slowly. There's no rush here at this point. Just give it a chance to, if you dump it, you know, if you take and you dump it in, obviously then you're going to have problems as far as sinking to the bottom, and then you're going to have to go in and try to, you know, with a spoon or something and, you know, help that pump out. This way it stays in the water channel here, it keeps moving. I'm going to put, it's really dissolving nice here this time, so I'm going to go ahead and just put one more in. Now this is just 4. I don't have quite 5 gallons of water. So what I like to do, actually, is I like to put this 4th one in. And once I have the 4th one in, I just set the bag of salt to the side. I let it mix for, I'd say, it's up to you, but I let it mix for a good hour or 2. And then I come and I actually do a check on the salinity. Because, you know, if I'm a few ounces off or a few ounces strong, you know, and then also the estimate on the back for the salinity, it's just an estimate. I mean, it's close, but it's not spot on. This way I don't overdo it, otherwise then I got to take water out, add fresh water, and then it's a big hassle. I like to get it, just take it there slow, you know, from this point, that type of thing. But we'll let that go. You can see now how after that last one, the water has clouded up. So I can't really show you, well, you can kind of see the pump a little bit there on the bottom. But the water has clouded up here, so we're going to let it clear, mix, and then we'll come back and we'll do a test to see where it's at. And then we'll add some more to get it right where we need it. Okay. Well, okay, so while that's mixing, I just wanted to point this out here just in case there are any questions, or if anybody does it this way, because I'm not saying that you can't make this work, but I would say that it's going to cause you more grief than it's worth as far as getting things mixed up, getting the water to stabilize out. But I have heard before where people will add all the salt just like this. And then after they add the salt, then they pour the water in. Well, all that does is cause it to clump and separate, and then you got more time trying to mix it, and it sticks to the bottom. It doesn't dissolve easy. It ends up taking a whole lot more of a process. So it's best to have the water in the bowl. Water in the bowl, then add the salt. Just wanted to add that. It's just another personal belief of mine. Alright, it's been about 2 hours. I just let it sit here and mix. You can see right to the bottom of the bucket, you can see how it's cleared up. You can see the light on in the heater. You can see there's no salt residue on the bottom of the bucket. Now, as you remember, I didn't put in the full recommendation. It's hard for me. I don't even know how I do it to where you could see the actual refractometer. I mean, I could show you the refractometer. I mean, this is ultimately the tool that I'm going to be using, but I have to look through here, and I can't get that. I actually tried putting my camera up to it to see if you guys could see it, but it's not going to work. So this is what I'm going to use ultimately to guarantee that I have the correct salinity. For the video though, I'm going to use this, which is just a hydrometer. This is, in my eyes, not 100% accurate, but it will be close enough for you guys to get an idea of what I'm doing. So I'm just going to take and rinse it out a little bit here. Fill it up to this little black line right. Oop, I'm too high. Fill it up to this little black line right here. And then as you can see where the pointer is, I don't know if I can get it to where, let me turn the camera up so I don't spill. Alright, so you can see on here, it's falling. It's at, I'd say 1.015 to 1.016. We want to have it at up here is where I like to keep it, somewhere around the 1.026 to 1.025 range. That's where I keep my tank, so that's what I'm targeting. So obviously I will need to add that other salt. You take a note here, if you do use one of these versus a refractometer, little bubbles can form underneath this pinpointer. And if you have little bubbles under there, it'll cause this to raise higher than it actually is. So before you actually trust the reading, always look at the needle. Make sure there's no little bubbles or anything stuck to it. If there is, a lot of times you can just take your finger and flick them. If that doesn't work, you might have to dump the water out, dump it back in a couple times. But once you know that that's correct, I would recommend setting this actually on a hard surface. Here, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Right here on on a hard surface. And then take the reading like so. Like I said, I'm going to have to add more salt here, but I just wanted to add this for those of you that have that don't have the other tool. This would be your hydrometer. The refractometer, that's a whole different story that you have to look through into the light, but that's much more accurate. I think you'll find that most hobbyists will agree that the refractometer is definitely the way to go if you don't have some other already set up automated system. But once again, we're going to just go, I think, judging by that, I am going to need just about a whole Alright, so we're going to let that mix and clear, and then we'll come back and we'll see where it's at. I might tweak it here in between time, show you the final result. Okay, so you can see I still have the pump in there, the heater in there. I got the salinity, temperature, everything right where I want it. You can see where it's starting to clear up a little bit. I'm going to just take a quick sample. I'm not going to set it on the table or anything, just to give you an idea, because I already checked it here, but I put this on the video. So you can see it here once it calms down. It's right between 1.025 and 1.026. Now that's right exactly where I want it, and actually, believe it or not, I did check this with a refractometer, and believe it or not, this thing is spot on. So usually it's a couple points off, but this time it really worked out good. Now I'm just going to let this sit, mix until tomorrow when I get off work, and then we're going to be adding it to the, we'll be taking water out and obviously adding it to the aquarium. I'll show you the clarity tomorrow after it sits for 12 hours. Will be much better than what you see right here, and everything should be actually stabilized as far as the alkalinity, pH. It should be all mixed thoroughly. Alright, so this is the water. Basically, well, it's probably a day and a half, because I did it kind of early when I did the video. But you can tell here, if you look at the pump and you look at everything, it's all pretty It's pretty clear. You could even see I put a little piece of crushed coral in the bottom, so you can see it in the one corner there, how clear it is. So this is all ready to go. This is ready for the tank. I also wanted to add here, just for anybody that is watching this video, maybe just first getting into the hobby. I'm sure most of you already all do this, but just never hurts to point this out. Whether you're using this, which like I said, I don't think is nearly as accurate or as good as this. This is the hydrometer. This is a refractometer. If you're using a refractometer, always calibrate it. Find some solution, calibrate it so that you know that it's reading accurate. And always, whenever you use it, make sure you clean residue, salt, water, anything off of it. Even use this here, shine it up. Make sure it's dry, clean before you put it away. Because you never want to have any residue from a previous test, because if you do, it could potentially give you an inaccurate reading. Same way with this. Always rinse it out thoroughly. I use RO water, DI water to do it. You could probably do it with this, regular tap water, and then let it drain like this on, somewhere. But you want to have that rinsed out thoroughly as well, so that when you do your next test, you know that it's accurate. Because if you do leave any residue in either one of these, you will get a false reading, as that salt will dissolve when the water gets added to it. Just wanted to throw that in there for those of you that may be new to the saltwater hobby. Well, I just want to point out, if you guys made it to this point in the video, you're amazing. You're my true subscribers. It's one thing to have subscribers, it's another to have them actually watch the videos, especially to completion. As always, comment, like, subscribe. The video, this particular video, just so you know, was actually made for you, the subscribers. I had several request it. I thought, this is a video that they want to see. I'll do it for them. As always, put in the comments, email me if you have a video idea and it's within my budget or my means, or I can make it work on my tank, or we can test some theory, and I can make it work. Let me know. I'm trying to make videos you guys want to see. So once again, just help me out there. Give me those ideas. And until next time,